Greetings, dear friends. I'm Sylvia, and I'm an author, international speaker, and teacher. And welcome to another of my small videos in which I share with you some of the questions and the answers that have occurred from my students and from my various teaching and speaking activities. Now, one of the questions I've had more than once is, how do we discern? It's a very, very important question, or at least the answer is very important, because discernment at this time, particularly, is absolutely essential. There's a plethora of so many thoughts, beliefs, opinions out there, and particularly online on every topic you can think of. And so it's good to have some guidelines, if you will, to guide you how to discern which of these is worth following or using or even believing. Because remember, most of the things out there are people's own opinions and beliefs. Some, of course, are well researched and based on fact. People like Greg Braden, Dr. Bruce Lipton, and many others, including myself, have done years and years of study and research underneath what they now present. So you have a fairly good or very good foundation to rest upon. But many folk, quite rightly so, are expressing their own beliefs, their own opinions, as everyone has a right to do. So how do you know which ones do have perhaps a foundation or some validity, some truth in them, and therefore uh, know which ones to take on board? And this can be through books, through writings, through videos, every manner possible, and of course online. So, how do we discern? Well, the very first step in discernment is knowledge. You need some knowledge about either the subject that you're aiming to discern, or you gain some knowledge, but it also applies, and perhaps more particularly, what kind of knowledge does the person or the writer have on that particular subject? It's all very well, if you say that this is my belief, this is my opinion, fine, and then you can take it or leave it. But when it's expressed often as fact, then yes, on what does this person base these statements on? So have a look and see what the credentials are of the person who is writing or speaking or has created a particular modality, in whatever form it comes. Because if they haven't got a reasonable amount of knowledge and expertise in their particular subject, well, then take it with a bit of caution. Knowledge, too, can apply even to folk like psychics and channels, believe it or not. Not obviously on the content, but ask yourself, or ask them better still, are they aware of the source levels that they can tap into? How to recognize their source levels or the entities or whatever they're working from? And do they know which ones to use and which ones to avoid? Because there are many, many levels out there that a clairvoyant or a clairsentient person can tap into. Many levels of the astral plane, for example. And believe me, a part of the astral plane has got a lot of tricksters in it. And people no wiser than Joe Bloggs down the street when he passed over. So just be aware that knowledge is a basic requisite to discern whether the material or the information or the modality is going to have some worth to you or some validity. Then there's the question of dependence and independence. Now, if some material, modality, speaker, technique, whatever it may be, is encouraging you to think that that person or that path is the only way or is the only one that has this particular knowledge, yeah, and that you have to always turn to that person and have to rely on them to help you or as a source of information, then I'd say be aware. In fact, I'd run for the nearest exit if it were me. And yes, religions are guilty of this. This is the only way. And look at the strife and the misunderstandings that have come from this path. So, being dependent upon one person or uh, one piece of information or one modality is not an advisable thing. We are here, in my understanding, as spiritual beings having this human experience, we are here to progress, to evolve, and to reach a level of spiritual maturity where we can be independent. That's a whole new subject which I might talk about at another video. And how we do that is to tap into our own higher source of knowledge, guidance, and so forth. I term it the Holy Spirit. It doesn't matter what term you use, but it's that inner knowing, that inner voice. So eventually, we are here to be independent and not have to rely on third parties, be they human or otherwise, or religions or whatever, to give us the answers. They can all help along the way, of course. We help each other. That's natural. But the ultimate goal is to be an independent thinker and be your own source of information. After all, when we're growing up as children, we are dependent, of course, at the beginning, but the whole goal of growing up is to become independent, self-reliant, and self-responsible adults, isn't it? And same applies to our spiritual path, spiritual progress. So the bottom line of this is it empowering or disempowering? If it's empowering, whatever the information or the path, the modality will be encouraging you to learn how to do it yourself, how to be empowered and step into your power and, as I say, reach a level of independence eventually. It's disempowering, of course, if we are told that, oh, well, this is the only way, someone else has to do such and such for us. I can't do it myself because I don't have that power, I'm a victim or whatever. Uh-uh, that's disempowering, and that, in my understanding, is not the way to go, and will only lead you probably to down another dead-end street. Another thing to consider is fear, because fear is a very insidious thing. It can paralyze us, and fear can block our own development completely. So, when you're discerning something, does it create a sense of uncertainty or fear in some form, um, whether it's fear of not being good enough or a fear of the future, any kind of fear at all is indicating that this is not a wise body of information or person or a modality to follow. Because, as I say, fear is the opposite to love. Love is who we truly are. It's the highest vibrational frequency that in this known universe. That is what we're aspiring to. And love means there is no fear. You cannot have the two coexisting. It's like you can't be half pregnant. So anything that brings you a sense of insecurity, which is all part of fear, then as I say, I would say not a wise thing to follow. So I hope that's given you some thought, some food for thought about how to discern. And yes, we learn by trial and error. Of course, we've all done that. And if you do happen to get down another dead end street or down the wrong path, okay, just accept it as a learning and move on and be a little wiser next time. So I hope that's given you some help and, as I say, some steps to consider. So Here's to your self empowerment and your progress along journey of the soul, as I call it, and many blessings from Sylvia.